And I thank Allah for this opportunity. We thank Allah for His intimate mercy. And the fact that He has given us intellect, freedom, choice, and the ability to learn, to converse, and inshallah to better ourselves and to ascend closer and closer to being a fit representative of Him here on earth. I would do my very best to come really close to you guys, but the cord is quite short, so please forgive me for being so far. But I would love for the conversation tonight, inshallah, to be useful for everyone. And so please feel free to participate. And I will also request forgiveness from particularly the elders in the crowd, as I will be focusing the conversation in English in the sake of time. خواستم یه عذرخواهی کوچیک بکنم از بزرگان مجلس به خصوص اونایی که شاید انگلیسی براشون خیلی مفید نباشه، ولی به خاطر وقت کم و اینکه حوصله دوستان رو سر نبرم شاید انشالله انگلیسی صحبت میکنم چند دقیقه. حالا بعد از جلسه من هستم اگه کسی فارسی سوال چیزی داشت. So I picked something to talk about essentially as part of a self-improvement series, which who knows, inshallah, the opportunity comes and we can consider other topics to discuss. But what I'm going to discuss may be slightly in tangent to the common topics that we discuss in our masjid. So please bear with me, but inshallah we can all benefit. Question. Which of Imam Ali alayhi salam's characteristics do we
She's giving you the answers?
Which of our beloved Imam Ali alayhi salam's attributes and characteristics can we name that we can use and utilize every day of our lives? I do want at least 2 responses, inshallah. So I'll ask the question a little differently, because I can see some question marks on your faces. We know a lot of amazing things about Imam Ali alayhi salam, don't we? I mean, the stories that we know about him are legendary. So, can I hear from someone one characteristic of Imam Ali that you think we can actually take and we can use in ourselves? Samir?
He's a male.
He's a male, so manliness.
He's a man.
So we can use that every day?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the interpretation that Imam Ali was manly. In fact, I think I mentioned it myself in the next slide. So any other characteristic that found, you know? Yes.
His manners?
Manliness.
No.
Got it again.
Manners.
Oh, his manners. Akhlaq. MashaAllah. So, can you be a little bit more specific though? Just like something specific about his manners or his akhlaq. Kindness. Respect. MashaAllah. MashaAllah, I like that. From the sisters, Can I get at least one characteristic from Amir al-Mu'mineen that we can use in our daily lives? Yes, Troya.
He helps people.
So helpfulness. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. So I would have just guessed some of the best lessons from Imam Ali that commonly come up are, he's the bravest of men. I think that's pretty close to the first response I had from Shahangian. Certainly, he's patient in the face of adversity. He's a righteous Khalifa of the Ummah. He was certainly a martyr in the path of the Prophet. He's known as the lion of Allah, Haida. He was the carrier of the sword, and certainly being an exemplary man. So I think a lot of the things that I listed were in common with what you guys have said, but I actually want to touch upon something that we probably haven't really actually heard too much of about with regards to Imam Ali alayhi salam. And let's call it a life lesson from Imam Ali alayhi salam, and we'll follow that with some science. And let me share that with you through two of his quotes, two quotes from Imam Ali alayhi salam himself. Maybe the first one is for the ladies. I think the ladies can connect best with this one. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, "Smile even if your heart is bleeding." Smile even if your heart is bleeding. Could any of the ladies tell me what that quote from Imam Ali means to them? I will call on people. I think Roya wants to respond again, mashallah.
Always smile.
Always smile. Okay, I like that. Any of the ladies want to participate again? What's your name? Alyssa? Mashallah, Alyssa. What does this quote mean to you? Be happy no matter what bad things happen. MashaAllah. That's wonderful. Both of you guys. Save it for the men's part, because I think I'm gonna pick on you for the quote that's gonna appeal to the men. Okay. So I like that. But keep this quote in mind. Smile even if your heart is bleeding. Imam Ali alayhi salam. So here's a quote I picked for the men. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, "Manliness starts with a smiling face." What does that mean?
When you smile, you get manliness.
Smiling gets manliness. So I mean, commonly when we think of the lion of Allah, probably the last thing we think of is the importance this great character has placed on the value of smiling, to a point where he himself states manliness, essentially the first characteristic that he attributed to Imam Ali alayhi salam before we start our conversation. He very specifically states that smiling is actually the sign and the start of manliness. So it's not who kicks the ball the hardest or can go in for the toughest tackles, right? MashaAllah, smiling is a sign of manliness. So I guess what I want to spend the next, inshallah, 25-30 minutes discussing will be, why does the Imam place such an emphasis on smiling? Is that okay, you guys? Does that sound like something that we can benefit from tonight?
Yes.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Okay, great. Very good. So, first let's very quickly discuss what is a smile. essentially, when you Google smile, it's a noun described as a pleased, kind, or amused facial expression, typically with the corners of the mouth turned up and the front teeth exposed. So let's do that exercise. Sit up nice and straight, and let's see a smile. I want to see a smile on everybody's face. I'll call on you if you're not doing it. There it is, there it is. Smile, smile. Good, good. Good, good, good. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. So, and I would also venture to say, this is my dictionary, that the true universal language is smiling. I mean, we smile the same pretty much in every language. Now, let's consider the science of smiling a little bit. You guys know my background is more in the sciences, and so first of all, it's definitely worth considering. From 4D ultrasounds, I think the ladies in the back want to share something. Yes? Yeah. I think the lady in the green scarf wanted to say something. Rafa. چیزی مهم نبود؟ باشه. خب 4D ultrasound is the latest technology in imaging for in utero, and so scientists have very well documented cases of children in utero smiling, and according to Dr. Stuart Campbell, this is a report at BBC. He believes that this facial expression is essentially a reflex, and it's in preparation for birth. But interestingly enough, newborns don't smile for the first 6 weeks of life, which may be attributed to the fact that the process of birth is quite stressful, and being introduced to this environment, this very different world, is quite different. And so when they're in a state of unrest, the smiling kind of diminishes a little bit, even though in utero they knew how to smile. So for the dissection lovers, here's an image of the largest muscles in the human face. Can anybody take a guess as to which muscles we actually use to smile with?
The oris, the depressor labii inferius, and the risorius, and buccal.
All right, good guess. See, I would have guessed the same as well, because you would think that we use actually our lip muscles to smile. Yes? All of them? We do use all the muscles, but the muscles that are specifically designed for smiling, interestingly, are those two muscles. So we have what's called the real smile, the Jossein smile, as it's been described, which uses the zygomatis major. So let's see if I can find my own mouse on here. Basically, the muscle that connects our zygoma, which is this bone right here, to the corner of our lip. So I'm pretty sure it's the same muscle that the ladies back there are using right now to converse as well. Yes? I'm pretty sure it's the same muscle. So, and amazingly enough, the other muscle that we use in our so-called real smile, because we have the non-Jossein smile, or the social smile, which yes does use a lot of other muscles. and that is the muscle that's around our eyes. Actually, let me illustrate with a real smile with this picture. Anybody know that person, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Anybody know this person?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's sitting right there. So this is little Miss Roya. I think she must have been maybe 1 year old, I think. And there's a big old smile. So take a look. I mean, there's a muscle that's pulling right here, and so it's kind of all in her cheek. And then look at her eyes; it's all squinted. So that's a real smile. And so we smile before birth, and we smile pretty much 6 weeks after birth, and we color the world around us. Even in a study conducted in Papua New Guinea, Paul Ekman, a scientist, he's a world-renowned researcher on facial expression. He found that members of the Force tribe, they are a tribe that there's a picture of, that are completely disconnected. So they are members of a very isolated tribe called the Force tribe in New Guinea, where they're cut off from pretty much any Western influence. In fact, they're known for their very unusual cannibalism ritual. Anybody know what cannibalism is? Yes. Yeah. So they're known for eating other human beings. So, I mean, that's how different culturally they are. But the researchers have found that they still respond to the social interactions, the human social interactions, and utilize smiling very much in a consistent way as the rest of us do. So, be it in utero or in the stomach of the mother, or from a very young age, 6 weeks on, be it in the most remote parts of the planet, the human being smiles in the same fashion. And so, how many times do you guys think we smile in an average day? The average person. Yes. 6 times. So I think Samir smiles just about 6 times a day. I would agree. So I'll ask you more questions. So the adults who are considered happy adults, I consider myself one of those, generally will smile about 40 to 50 times a day. So that's not bad. That's not bad. But the average amongst us smiles about 20 times a day. Now, how many times do children smile? I want one of the ladies at the back. Take a guess. How many times do the children on average smile? Four times? 5 times? Children are known to smile up to about 400 times a day. You should hang out with me and my 3 girls. It's incredible. Children, they're lively, which kind of explains why when we're around children, we tend to kind of want to smile or pull out our hair, depending on what kind of mood they're in. So, now let's talk a little bit about the research behind smiling. So, the first research I want to share with you guys is a research from UC Berkeley. And it's a 30-year longitudinal study. Won't get into what that means, but they basically looked at yearbook pictures, okay, from students at UC Berkeley, and they tried to measure the success and the well-being of the individuals from their pictures from 30 years ago and throughout their life to the present day. And you wouldn't believe it. By measuring those students' smiles, the researchers were able to predict how fulfilling and how long-lasting those individuals' marriages would be. Imagine that. So from a picture of when they were students and in college, those who smiled bigger had more fulfilling and longer lasting marriages. So, another study. This was a little more recent, in 2010, from Wayne State University. Looked at pre-1950 baseball cards from the Major League Baseball players. So the guys probably know what I'm talking about. No? You do? I know, baseball cards they were big when I was your age. In fact, I wasted a lot of money on them. So instead of going online to check player statistics, we would buy these cards and they had the baseball players' previous season statistics on it. And of course the best players were very hard to find, and when you found them, it was worth a lot of money. So you'd spend all this money trying to collect the whole set, and there was a few that just were like impossible to get. Anyhow, so what the researchers did was they looked at these players' pictures on their card, and then they looked at the span of the player's smile, so how wide their smile was in the photos, and they could actually predict the span of his life. So it's pretty incredible if you ask me. Essentially, those with no smile, on average, lived 72.9 years, whereas those that had what they considered a beaming smile lived on average about 80 years. So there was a good 7-year difference. So another thing that science has very well established is smiling is actually evolutionarily contagious. I mean, how can you look at this little cutie and not smile yourself? So, and what smiling does is it actually suppresses your control. So we're all tense. We're like, okay, well, I'm sitting in a masjid. I'm supposed to be listening really good. I'm supposed to not be falling asleep. And then there's a cute smile in front of you, and you can't help the seriousness, and you want to smile. And that, us looking at somebody smiling and then wanting to smile back, actually happens through certain neurons in our brain. They're called mirror neurons. So these cells that we have in our brain are specially designed to be able to mimic, to be able to copy what we're looking at. So essentially these mirror neurons will analyze, they will look at and measure the facial expressions on the person who we're talking to or interacting with, and it allows us to replicate them so that we can have a better interaction or a better conversation with them, because we are social creatures. Humans were created to be around other humans and interact with them. And so it's in this mirroring and it's in this synchronizing that leads us to a heightened state of connection, which actually oftentimes leads to increased trust. So when we're interacting with each other, and this is based on the science, and we have a smile on our face, we tend to trust the individual who's smiling more than the person who is not. So take notes, consider this. What things do we have in our social lives that are more valuable than being able to earn someone's trust? So inshallah, as we're talking about the modern day science behind smiling, you guys are thinking about the quotes that I shared with you a little bit earlier, that Imam Ali alayhi salam had shared with us hundreds of years ago. So, I'll share another study with you. It's a German study using functional MRI, which is kind of interesting. They actually use Botox. Does anybody know what Botox is? Ladies in the back know what Botox is? No? Somebody's got to know what Botox is back there.
I haven't even heard of that.
Well, I'm not surprised that Elias hasn't heard, but nobody in the back knows what Botox is? Alright. So, you guys have probably watched celebrities whose lips kind of puff up and then, super old celebrities looking young overnight through plastic surgery. Well, the most common plastic surgery procedure or procedure done by plastic surgeons nowadays and or dermatologists is injections, little shots that are placed in our muscles, and usually it's in the face, that the muscles that are kind of drooping and with time have started to not be as firm are essentially disabled, and so the face looks younger. That's what it's commonly used for. But so these researchers, what do they do? Remember the muscles that we were talking about earlier? They took those muscles and they injected them with Botox, the same chemical that essentially turns those muscles off. And then they watched the subjects and saw how the response in their brain was completely changed. So typically when we smile, we know how on an MRI, what part on a functional MRI, what part of our brain gets activated. So now this person is smiling, they're happy, they saw the same image or the same thing that would make them smile previously, but just because those muscles were turned off, so they're smiling on the inside in their head, but not with their muscles. And amazingly enough, the brain part that lights up when you have that positive feedback from smile, that positive good feel, just didn't light up. Does that make sense? Are you guys following me? Did I hear a no? I can repeat it. Well, should I repeat?
No? Yeah.
Okay, so for Roya's sake. So we know that when we smile, what happens? We feel good, right? Something good must have happened that we smile. And when we smile, we feel good. So our brain, the part that feels good, will light up on an MRI. And so by just turning off the muscle using Botox, by just turning it off, even though the person saw the same thing, the same funny thing, the part of the brain that responds to pleasure and to joy didn't respond. So, in other words, just the act of making your smile muscles do this, your brain actually gets pleasure. Isn't that crazy? Am I the only geek that finds that amazing? So, British researchers, the good old British, they found that a single smile actually generates the same level of brain stimulation, of joy that is, as 2,000 bars of chocolate. So a single smile has the same response, joyous response in our head as 2,000 bars of chocolate. Much less calories, I'm sure, much less cavities. So, basically, if you want to enhance your mood, all you have to do is smile. And it affects those around us because of those mirror neurons that we were talking about. And if that's not all, smiling actually makes you look good in the eyes of others. And this has been proven by research as well. So a recent study from Penn State University found that when you smile, you not only look more likable and more courteous, but you actually appear more competent. So you look like you know what you're talking about when you're smiling. So let me wrap up with another quote from Imam Ali alayhi salam. He states that I have not seen anybody who smiles more than Rasulullah, peace be upon him. So Rasulullah himself, we know, smiled more than anybody else around him, mashallah. And I'm not sure how come we never discussed this. I mean, all those incredible tributes, and one of them we've never really mentioned. So, what blows my mind is Rasulullah, peace be upon him, was engaged by some accounts in 83 battles, big or small, either directly himself or indirectly. In the short 10 years that essentially he led Islam after the Hijrah. Imagine that, 83 wars, and Rasulullah still managed to have the most smiles on his face than anybody else. Listen, I get a speeding ticket and I'm bummed for like 6 months. MashaAllah, the teachings that we can take away from Imam Ali, Ahlul Bayt, Rasulullah himself. So, let me end with this. The lessons from Imam Ali alayhi salam that inshallah we learned in this short 30 minutes were what? Smiling is a human behavior that is highly recommended by Ahlul Bayt. Those who smile benefit themselves and they benefit those around them. And the religion of Islam is a religion of compassion and balance to benefit us in this world and the hereafter. And this has been taught to us by, mashallah, our imams and our messenger, well before for the ultrasounds, well before UC Berkeley scientists, well before 50-year-old baseball cards were out there to be studied, or functional MRIs were there to be analyzed. So for my youngest in the crowd, please be proud of the religion that alhamdulillah you call your own, and let's end with a loud salawat. One last request, it's a personal request inshallah, with a smile on your face, but we do have a family member in need of your dua in the hospital tonight. So please inshallah, pray for him and for his quick and speedy recovery. And if you would please. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Any questions? Alright, thank you guys.
I like turtles.
MashaAllah, good lecture.
Yes, really.
Só resta desse jogo. Não, já sei Thank you all. It's very good.
Hey, dribble and travel.